Number 9, we actually answered in number 8. We're going to skip over this one now. We answered 8 and 9 together basically up on the previous page. Number 10, on what intervals are the slopes of the segments increasing? Right? And then what does the graph look like on these intervals? And then just a quick note, a steep negative slope of something like -8 changing to a less steep negative slope like -1 is actually an increase, all right? Because if we're thinking of this on a number line, -8 is over here, -1's over here, and to get from -8 to -1 we move to the right, which means we are increasing. Right? So we go back here to our graph, right? Well, we start at -9, then we increase to -8, -7, -6, all the way up to 0, and then we keep going. Increase up to 1, to 2, to 3, and then we stop, and we start to decrease, 2.5 to 1, and so on. Okay, so on what intervals are the slopes of the segments increasing? We can say from -infinity to about -3 or so. And also, our slopes got down to about -1.5, but then they increased to -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So from this point onward, our slopes were also increasing. And that's from about x equals 2.5 to infinity. On what intervals are the slopes of the segments decreasing? Well, when we're decreasing, let's see, we increase all the way up here to a 3, then we decrease to 2.5 to 1, 0. We drop down to -1, -1.5. So from here to about there, our slopes decrease from 3 all the way down to -1.5. So on the x values, we're talking about from -3 to about that point, which is about 2.5. In other words, the only parts that were not, or the only interval that was not mentioned up here, -3 to 2.5. Estimate the point where the slopes change from increasing to decreasing. All right, well, that happened when x was equal to -3. All right, and what happens on the graph at this point? Okay, -3 happens right here. What happens in the graph? Well, that's the point, if you remember from earlier, where we change from a U shape to an upside down U shape. So we change from a U shape to an upside down U shape. And the point where the slopes change from decreasing to increasing, that happened up here at 2.5. So x equals 2.5. And again, that is a change from an upside down U shape to a U shape. Right, and if we go back to the picture, okay, here's x equals 2.5 is right there, and right at this spot, our slopes were decreasing prior to that spot, and then our slopes began increasing again. And we can see we changed from an upside down U to a regular shaped U. So there is discovery part B. Now, as far as part C is concerned, I'm going to ask you to fill in all of the blanks down here with your thoughts. We want you to consider your answers from parts A and B and look at the same values. So for example, going back here, notice that our y coordinates were decreasing from -infinity to 5.5 and also from 0 to 4.25. Well, down at number 6, we see that the slopes of the segments were negative during those exact same intervals. So the connection we can make is that negative slopes, right, correspond with a decreasing function. And that's what we see right here. The slope is negative only where the function is decreasing. Negative slopes correspond with a decreasing function. All right, so can you come up with a bunch more sentences for part C?